Hey everybody, it's me, Angela Walters, and welcome to my weekly live chat. It's been a couple weeks since I've been here, so I had to try to remember everything I was doing to go live, but I'm super excited to be here. Sorry to have missed the last couple weeks, just, things came up and it's just, a fun, busy, wonderful time of the year, and I hope that you're having a great holiday season as well. So in today's live chat, I have a new little tutorial. I'm going to try a little bit of a different format, so I can't wait to hear what you think about that. And if you're watching live, Jessica is here as always, monitoring the chat, kicking off the spammers, and writing down any questions that you might have. So if you're watching and you have questions, let me know. Plus, one lucky viewer is going to win a quilt pattern, the M in Bloom quilt pattern, and I might throw some other little goodies in with that. So we're going to pick a winner at the end of the live chat. So leave a comment on the live chat telling Jessica how amazing she is and how much you love whatever you want to say, and she'll pick whoever she thinks gave the best one. No, I'm just kidding. She picks it randomly. Do you guys like my head attire? I am so into the Christmas spirit. I like it. Yeah, very popular. I love it. Dollar Tree, $1.25. You just can't beat that. I have so many different ones. It's so much fun just to be silly. And I love the Christmas time. If you don't, no worries. But I'm the one that listens to the music, the Christmas music in November. I love everything about it. So today's live chat is going to be a little bit of a different type. I'm going to do a tutorial-esque live chat. So we're going to talk through how to make this adorable little Christmas wall hanging. So if you're needing a last-minute Christmas gift, because you know how us quilters do, we put stuff off till the last minute, or we get done early and we think, oh, I have 3 days, I'm gonna make a quilt top for Christmas. It's a great, quick little project, no piecing, it's all quilting. So what I love about it as well is it's a great way to practice machine quilting. I know that it can be daunting and scary to do this big ornate project. So if you have been interested in trying machine quilting, kind of looking in, thinking it might be worth trying, this little project is a great way to do it. Normally, during my live chats, what I'll do is I'll have step-by-step pictures, but this time I thought I would record some video. So I have some video that I'll talk over. So we'll see how that goes over, hopefully well. I got the idea for this because I did it as a part of a long arm class just a couple weeks ago. The class was so much fun. It was like a long arm make and take where we had actually 2 sessions that sold out, where everybody came, saw how to do the technique, and as you can tell, everybody did completely different trees, and it was a lot of fun. And then even this one, the ombre rainbow, so cute. I love classes because you get such ideas just from the other people there, whether you're the teacher or the student. I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't love classes, but man, it's a great way to be inspired and to be around other quilters. So when I was thinking, oh my gosh, I have got to have a topic for today, I thought I'll talk about how we did that and show you step by step. It's too much fun. So it uses the ticker tape method, and that is not a method that's unique to me. That's been around for a while, but it's a great way to create a textured looking quilt without piecing. And so what I have here is, again, it's a quick little video that shows you what that might look like. So for a ticker tape quilt, I have my quilt sandwich totally made. I have my backing, my batting, and my top. The difference is, oop, it just went away. We'll see if that can come up. Well, let's see if I come back to it. There we go. So you can see, sorry guys, the pieces are sewn directly through the quilt sandwich. What this means is I can have my one piece of fabric and then just strategically put pieces of fabric where I want it to go. It's a great way to use up scraps. It's a great way to experiment with different shapes like I've done here. These are like leaf shapes. You can also experiment with arrangement. So in this example, I started with my one square and then just added pieces on top. Great project for kids because it's done when they say it's done, right? They don't have to worry so much about, waiting 2 weeks to have it done. They can kind of enjoy that whole process. And then you can do a lot of different variations. So this example, I just kind of drew a heart and filled inside of it with a different color than the outside. So a lot of different ways you can use kind of this technique. And this is kind of as a jumping off point for the Christmas tree idea. Let's do something holiday themed and have a good time with it. So that's kind of where this project came out of. So the ticker tape method can be done on a sewing machine or a long arm. It doesn't have to be on a long arm, but it's really fun. So when I sat down and kind of thought through, how am I going to do this? I wanted to do a little tree and some quilting, and you can make this any size you want. So I just made it about fat quarter size, but there's other ways you can go about that as well. So I just made a couple little samples for the class. You can kind of see here some different shapes. You can use a different layout, use smaller pieces instead of strips. Now, I'm sure that everybody watching doesn't have a lot of fabric laying around, but I have a lot of scraps, and so it's a great use of that. And I just thought this was adorable. So instead of doing squares or strips, I made little hollies. So definitely a lot of fun technique to work through. So what I've done is put together just a video on how you can do this technique. But what I want to say is when you're trying this out, really use your imagination and kind of think about, ooh, what can I do with it? Even though I did a Christmas tree, you can do any simple shape, and we're going to see how to do the whole thing, and then just I'll answer any questions that you might have. So for this, it's really easy. I just need 2 pieces of fabric and a piece of batting, and that can be really any size you want, and then some scraps, right? So if you're newer to quilting, keep it a little bit on the smaller side. Fat quarter size is good, but you could make this, as large as you wanted, so totally fine. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fabric for the top. So this is just the gray background that we see, and I'm going to fold it in half and cut out my shape. Now, I said, I did a Christmas tree here. It could be any shape you want. It could be an ornament. It could be a letter, like a monogram. It could be, really, just use your imagination. So I'm basically cutting that shape out of the center of the fabric. And please forgive the paper scissors here. I was just like, well, let's get this over with. A rotary cutter would be very handy as well. And so when you're done, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have a piece of fabric with the tree cut out of the middle. It feels a little bit like kindergarten craft time, I'm not going to lie, but kindergarten craft time is pretty amazing. So have a good time with that. And then here's my little piece that's taken out of it. So far, so easy, right? No biggie. Now we're going to begin to build up our quilt sandwich. So I'm going to put my backing and my batting, and then I'm going to lay that fabric on top for just a minute. What I'm doing here is kind of auditioning where I want my tree to go. So I want to make sure that the tree I'm getting ready to draw is the same direction on the fabric as the top fabric. So I'm just kind of auditioning where I want my tree to go on the batting, kind of marking those reference lines, and then I'm going to put that quilt top away for a moment. So we'll see that again here in a little bit. Then I'm going to put my little piece on here, and I'm going to use that as a template to trace out my shape. Now, tracing out this shape is just to use as a guideline so I know where to put my fabric. So first thing I'm doing, I'm tracing my shape so that it's bigger than the actual thing I cut out. I want to have a little bit of a little bit of allowance on that. And it's a rough cutout or rough tracing. Don't worry too much about this. I'm using a Sharpie. I'm going to cover up a fabric, so you can use whatever, but an erasable marker might be even better. So I'm just kind of tracing out that shape. Look at that, beautiful. Then now I have my area. I'm going to start filling it in with fabric. So basically what I'm doing is doing the ticker tape method without a piece of fabric underneath it. So I'm auditioning my strips where I want them to go, but I want to make sure that all the batting within that drawn shape is covered up. And we'll see why here in a second. But I'm going to put my strip or my piece, and I'm going to sew it down and add another one right on top of it, and then keep adding my pieces. So it's going to be like a raw edge quilt. It's going to have some texture to it, but again, it's going to look so fun and whimsical when it's done. So once I get my machine out, I'm going to quilt through those layers. Now, if you have an extended base like I just put on there, it's very helpful. So check that out if you have it. Then I'm just going to quilt that piece of fabric down to the quilt sandwich, right? You can do little loops like I'm doing here. You could use your walking foot and just do some echo quilting. Really, it doesn't matter. You can just quilt that sucker on there however you want to do it. Then I'm going to repeat, adding my next one. Oh, my head's in the way here. Let me move it out of the way. You see there? And then if I need to, I can trim it down to size. And if you have any pinking shears, those are really fun to add a little bit of texture at the end of the strip too. You can make this as detailed or as simple as you want, depending on how much you like to overthink things. I know sometimes I like to overthink them. So if you need to, you can pin the strip to the fabric. So the first time I was just kind of like slapping it on and quilting it down, but it did shift a little bit, especially since I'm just machine quilting it down. So if you're more of detail-oriented person, that's totally fine. You can use some pins to hold that in place. It's up to you. And then I'm going to quilt through those layers again. And then just pretty much repeat. So have fun with this. Make your strips different widths. Make them go at different angles. Use different quilting designs. I'm just going to show you kind of here how I'm auditioning my fabric. The most important thing here isn't that I use the coolest fabrics, although, you know, I want to. I want those strips to definitely cover that drawn area. I want to make sure it extends past my drawn lines so that later on it will fill in the whole area, and we'll see why here in a second. So again, have fun with this, whatever strips you have, and I'm going to sew them all down. So here we can kind of see what that looks like. Looks kind of silly, doesn't it, right? But this is where the magic happens. Putting that piece of fabric on top is going to give me the outline and let me see that beautiful Christmas tree. So even though it looked a little weird there for a second, this is where it looks really cool, and you put that little shape on there. Now you can see why it's important that that fabric extended past the drawn line. Now what I'm going to do is quilt. You kind of saw me trace that out. I'm going to quilt a line about a 1/2 inch or so along the outside just to secure that piece of fabric right there. What I am going to do is pin or use some way to hold these layers together. This fabric is going to want to shift, and so we just want to kind of pin it in place. And again, as you're quilting that, if you want to, you could use your walking foot. I just used my free motion foot and just did just like a wiggly line. It doesn't have to be anything perfect or particular, I promise. So here you can kind of see me putting that together. A lot of fun. I'm super excited about the upcoming year because I have a new filming area, new equipment, and it was really fun to be able to film this pretty quickly. And then when you're done, you have your adorable little wall hanging. How cute is that? Again, it's raw edge, but it's just cute and whimsical. But I think it's missing something, right? Like it looks a little plain. So I'm going to add a little star on top of it. Now, my star cutting abilities are not the best, but it looks adorable, right? It looks like a starfish kind of actually, but what are you going to do? So you can add any embellishments on here you want. I just cut out that shape and quilted it down. I could add presents. I could add ornaments. Some of the gals in the class were adding little ornaments to the tree and putting like stuff in the outside. It was so cute to see what they were coming up with. But then once you're done with that, then you're going to quilt the whole thing and bind it and enjoy it. So it's kind of like layered quilting, but we're doing ticker tape underneath the cutout. Of course, you don't have to do it that way. To make it easier, I could have just, drawn the shape and filled it in, but it just depends on the effect that you're wanting to go for. Again, great technique for practicing making a quilt sandwich. It's a great technique for practicing machine quilting. And it's just a fun, adorable little wall hanging. So you can tell I'm going with the raw edge binding here. I didn't bind it yet. I say yet. We know I'm probably not going to bind it. But it's just a fun, cute little deal there. So hopefully, if you need a last minute gift or a fun little project, you can try that out. I'm going to be doing another long arm session with this, and I think I'm going to do like a heart for Valentine's Day. So I think it'd be some cute things you can do with that. So very, very fun. Now, before I answer any questions or do let the giveaway know, just a couple of housekeeping things. If you're new to my live chat, thank you so much for joining. I don't take it for granted that you would spend your time listening to me talk. My family does not enjoy listening to me talk. Well, Jessica does, but not my immediate family. So I just love that there's people out there that will listen to me. Sometimes I joke with my kids that I get paid to talk and they get the pleasure of hearing me for free. They don't seem to like that. But I do appreciate you here, and I try to always share some kind of tip or takeaway or something that's educational. So not so much just, hey, this is what I'm doing, but also just, helping share my experience with it. I normally come on every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central, and I actually usually get on about a half an hour before, and we type chat beforehand. So it is so much fun typing and answering questions there as well. I will not be back, though, until the first week of January. So I'll be back after the Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along starts. So starting January 7th, if you've watched any of my live chats recently, you know that's a big day in this world. That's when our next free machine quilting video series starts. So the first video will come out January 7th. That next Thursday, which I can't think of the date right now, I'm going to say the 10th probably, that's going to be the next live chat. So I'll be out of town the first week of January. But during those live chats, I'll kind of recap and answer the questions you have. It's so much fun. I can't wait to start it because we're going to talk about swirls, and it's going to be really, I think it's going to be really fun. I'm excited. All right. As a part of the live chats, I usually answer some questions towards the end. Just a fun way to connect, especially when we have the video series going or the class, because that way you can, have help with that. So the first question, do you have tips for binding? I have so much difficulty getting my binding to be smooth and even. Yes, my big tip, the raw edge quilt. Why should we smother the batting? It should be allowed to experience life too, don't you think? I don't know. I keep trying to make that a thing, but it's not becoming a thing. No, you have to bind it because it'll start unraveling, unfortunately. I am not very good at binding. I'm a one-trick pony. I like machine quilting and that's it. I mean, I can do some other stuff. I can get in trouble with it for sure. I don't really have any tips for binding. My big tip would be pay somebody else to do it. But other than that, using a walking foot, huge. Like I piece with a walking foot because I don't like switching it out. So walking foot will help guide those fabrics through evenly. Beyond that, I would love to hear what any of the viewers say. I know that during the type chat, people were chiming in, but after the live chat's over, leave it in the comments. I love how quilters are willing to help other people out, and I'm not too proud to say I'm not too great at binding. So, when making a quilt sandwich with a pieced backing, is there a trick to make sure the backing is aligned with the top? I'm sure there is. But for me, my stance on this has always been I can only worry about one side of the quilt. So I'm going to worry about the quilt top. When I quilted for customers, if they would bring it in and they would want it centered, I would just tell them it's impossible to guarantee that. Now, you can get it close. You can finagle it, you can measure it, you can do all those things, but I don't want to stress out too much about that. So my tip would be, if you're wanting to do that, figure out your measurements to center it. How much do I need on each side? And make sure that you're paying attention to that when you're making your quilt sandwich. Now on the long arm, that's a little trickier because you don't know how far the quilt top is going to stretch, but you can kind of guesstimate it. One of the gals at the shop, I wish I had a picture of it. I have the best employees, by the way. They do such a great job for me. She made a double-sided quilt and she quilted it. Like it literally is the same quilt, 2 different colors on the front and back. And I told her, she's one of my long arm owners, I'm like, this is some kind of voodoo here. But she said that as she advanced, she would make sure like that this point matched this point under there by putting a pin through it. So if you want to do that, that's how you could do it. So hopefully that helped. Sorry. Will this technique only work for wall hangings that won't be washed? No, it'll work for anything. You can wash it. In fact, if you have a looser weave, like a linen to use on top or flannel, it'll kind of give you that nice frayed edge. No, it's going to look beautiful. You'll get a little bit of frayed around here, but that's totally fine. I'm going to eventually do a video tutorial on this, how you can do the stitch and flip underneath so that you don't have the raw edge, but we'll talk about that later, or the quilt as you go. Anyway, so yes, it will work. And then did I use the same techniques for the presents? Kind of. So after the whole thing was done, I cut out the piece of fabric and then put it on and then sewed it down. And so that's just the fabric design there, kind of like I did with the star. So I'm not putting anything on the batting. I'm just putting the strips, then I put the top fabric, and then anything you want to add, the star, the presents, anything like that will go on top, and you just quilt that sucker right on down. And around the star, I cut that out with pinking shears just to make it look just a little bit different texture, kind of fun. All right, I hope you've enjoyed that quick little tutorial. It's kind of fun to try that format out. I don't know what we'll do next time. But the winner of the pattern and some other little goodies I'll throw in is Cassie W. So Cassie, leave a comment, or I'm sorry, email us at customerservice@quiltingismytherapy.com and we will get that sent to you. And I will see you guys January 7th. I think that's it. The Thursday, 9th. It's the 9th. See you January 9th for my next live chat. Until then, everybody, I hope you have a great holiday season. I hope that your quilting time is plentiful and that your bobbins always stay full. Until then, everybody, happy quilting.